what if there are secret stories locked away inside? Well, today we're going to peel back those layers of sparkle and uncover the hidden narratives inside some of the world's most fascinating jewels.
I mean, really think about it. What if a gemstone could tell you about its incredible, sometimes violent birth deep inside the earth? Or maybe whisper about a clever deception it was designed for? Well, it turns out they absolutely can. And the people who can translate that language, they're part scientist, part detective.
So, you've got these incredible labs, right? Places like the Gemological Institute of America. And the scientists there, they don't just identify stones. No, they interrogate them. They use all this advanced science to piece together a gem's entire life story, one tiny microscopic clue at a time.
And we're diving deep into this because when it comes to gemstones, there is always more than meets the eye.
Okay, so picture this. Every single gem is like a time capsule. It's got these two layers of stories, right? The first is geological, the insane pressures and temperatures that created it. But the second layer, that's human. The treatments, the fakes, the deceptions. We're going to uncover both.
All right, first up, let's look at the stories written by Mother Nature herself. These are the cases where some really unique features tell us all about a gem's extraordinary creation.
So, our first case is this absolute stunner, a 21.22 carat Alexandrite. Now, its whole deal, its signature move, is this crazy color change. You put it under fluorescent light, and it's this brownish green. But then, you switch to regular incandescent light, and boom, it transforms into a brownish purple. This little magic trick, that's our very first clue.
But wait, there's more. That color change isn't its only secret. It also has this incredible cat's eye effect, which has the fancy name chatoyancy. What that is basically light bouncing off these tiny little parallel needles inside the stone. Now here's the really brilliant part. The person who cut this gem was a genius. They figured out that all those needles were stuck in one super thin layer. So they had to cut the stone with insane precision to get that cat's eye effect to show up perfectly across the top.
So, while some gems tell a story of delicate precision, others, well, they tell a story of pure violence. Case in point, this next diamond. Scientists looked at it and found this really bizarre wavy texture on the surface. And now, it's not a bad polish job. It's a feature they call lizard skin. And that skin is basically a roadmap of the diamond's incredibly traumatic past.
And get this, that texture isn't just on the surface. It goes all the way through, mapping out a pattern of strain inside the entire crystal. You see, this diamond wasn't just formed deep. It was formed somewhere between 360 and 750 kilometers down in the Earth's mantle. That's insane. The lizard skin is pretty much fossilized evidence of all the stress it went through just to get to us.
Sometimes a single gemstone comes along and just completely rewrites the rulebook. For decades, gemologists believed that this swirly, oily-looking feature called gota de aceite was the exclusive signature of only the best Colombian emeralds. It was like their calling card. And then, this emerald from Zambia shows up. And guess what? It has the exact same feature. It just goes to show, nature doesn't always play by our rules.
Okay, so those are some incredible stories from nature. But not all gem stories are natural. Now we're going to switch gears and dive into the world of imitations, where human cleverness tries to copy and, sometimes deceive what nature made.
All right, check out this bracelet. At first glance, it looks just like ruby and zoisite, which is a really beautiful and popular stone. But a super simple test, checking its refractive index, which is just how it bends light, gave a reading of 1.55. That's way off from real ruby or zoisite. And once they put it under the microscope, the whole story came out. It was just plain old quartzite, with some green and purple dye stuffed into the cracks. Simple, but pretty effective as a fake.
But hey, not all fakes are that simple. Some are way more sophisticated, way more cunning. This next case, it involves a stone that was sent to the lab claiming to be a rough diamond. And you know what? It had the shine, the right surface textures. It really looked the part.
But the gem detectives, they found the tells. First giveaway, the shape was wrong. It was a 10-sided crystal, not the classic 8-sided shape of a diamond. Second clue, it was doubly refractive, meaning it splits light into two rays. Diamonds don't do that, they're singly refractive. And the final nail in the coffin? That came from some advanced testing, Raman spectrometry, which confirmed its real identity, synthetic moissanite.
Okay, but what about the most complex, the most elaborate deception you can imagine? I want you to picture a stone that is somehow both natural and lab-grown at the same time. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what gemologists found. They were natural, almost colorless sapphires that someone had secretly coated with a super thin layer of synthetic ruby.
So how in the world did they crack a case that complex? The clues were super subtle, but they were there. First, the refractive index was just a little bit too high. Then, under the microscope, they saw these telltale flux fingerprints, which are a dead giveaway for a synthetic process. They even found tiny windows where the polish had worn through the red layer, showing the colorless sapphire core underneath. But the real smoking gun? It was chemical. They found traces of platinum, a metal used in the synthetic growing process that you would never find in a natural stone.
So we've gone from the depths of the earth all the way to a high-tech lab. What's the big takeaway here? What do all these stories really teach us?
I think what we've really learned is that every single gem has a story to tell. Sometimes it's this huge geological epic. Other times it's more like a detective novel, full of human deception. And all that scientific analysis, that's just the language we use to read those stories. Because at the end of the day, a gem's true, authentic story, its real identity in history, that's what gives it its real value.
So, the next time you see a gemstone, I hope you don't just see a pretty, sparkly object. I hope you'll look a little closer. And maybe you'll ask yourself, okay, what secrets are you hiding? What story do you have to tell?